It was a typical Wednesday morning when Adebola, a school teacher, was dragged out of her school by two police officers. Her students and colleagues watched from their windows, whispering in confusion. She kept screaming, "This must be a mistake. I've done nothing wrong." But the officers didn't listen. They shoved her into the back seat of an unmarked car and sped off. An hour later, Femi, her husband, burst through the doors of the local police station, demanding answers. His wife wasn't a criminal. Adebola was loved by her students, respected in her community, and lived a simple life. What could she possibly have done to end up in handcuffs? The officer on duty, barely looking up from his desk, said, "She's a suspect in a fraud case, that's all I can tell you." Femi's jaw dropped. Fraud? Adebola barely had enough savings to replace their leaking roof, let alone get involved in anything remotely close to fraud. Something was terribly wrong. The story started in a quiet suburb of Ibadan, where Adebola and Femi lived with their two children, Tosin and Ayo. Life was predictable, even mundane. Adebola's weekdays revolved around grading homework, cooking dinner, and attending her church choir rehearsals. Femi, an electrician, spent his days fixing wiring and hustling for contracts. One morning, while Adebola was waiting for her bus to school, a stranger approached her. He was sharply dressed with a shiny wristwatch that screamed money. "Good morning, ma'am," he greeted her warmly. "I'm looking for volunteers for a charity program aimed at supporting underprivileged kids in Ibadan. It's a project close to my heart, and I think you would be a great fit." Adebola, always eager to help children in need, agreed to hear more. He introduced himself as Mr. Shegun and handed her a pamphlet. The charity, called Bright Futures Initiative, promised scholarships, school supplies, and free meals for kids from struggling families. Adebola felt a tug at her heart. This was the kind of initiative she had always dreamed of supporting. She told him what she does for a living, and Shegun asked her for a simple favor. "If you wouldn't mind, we need someone to help coordinate donations at your school. You won't need to handle cash. Just distribute forms and collect signatures from willing donors." It seemed harmless, so Adebola agreed. The program kicked off smoothly. Adebola collected signatures from parents and teachers who were thrilled to contribute. A week later, Shegun handed her an envelope filled with receipts and forms, asking her to drop them off at a courier office within town. Again, it seemed harmless. But that night, Femi noticed the flyer on the table and started asking questions out of curiosity. He sensed something strange. "Who's this Shegun guy?" he asked, looking at the pamphlet on the dining table. "I've never heard of this charity before." "It's new," Adebola replied. "Why do you ask?" Femi frowned. "I don't know. Something about this doesn't sit right with me. Did you verify it?" Adebola laughed. "Why would anyone fake a charity for children? Besides, it's not like I'm giving them money." "Well," Femi shrugged, but couldn't shake off the uneasy feeling. 2 weeks later, Adebola started noticing odd things happening around her. A car she didn't recognize parked outside their house late at night. Calls from unknown numbers that hung up as soon as she answered. When she told Femi, he dismissed it as paranoia. One evening, Tosin, their 10-year-old son, came running into the house, holding a crumpled flyer. "Mommy, isn't this your charity?" he asked, pointing to the headline. "Scam alert, Bright Futures Initiatives under investigation." Adebola's heart sank. The flyer claimed that Bright Futures Initiative was a fund for laundering money through unsuspecting volunteers. Her name wasn't mentioned, but it warned locals to avoid anyone associated with the organization. Femi's face darkened when he read it. "I told you something was off. How could you get involved without checking?" Adebola tried to defend herself. "I didn't know. I thought I was helping children." "You need to stop working with them," Femi said firmly. But before she could, Segun appeared at her school the next morning. All smiles. "We're making great progress," he said, handing her another envelope. This time, Adebola hesitated. "Is everything okay?" Segun asked, noticing her discomfort. "Yes," she lied, slipping the envelope into her bag. That evening, Adebola decided to open the envelope. Inside were bank slips showing large sums of money deposited into an account with her name on it. Her stomach churned. She had never seen that money before. Why was her name on these documents? Just then, her phone rang. It was Segun. His tone was calm, but his words sent shivers down her spine. "I hope you are not planning to do anything foolish, Mrs. Adebola. It would be a shame if those bank documents found their way to the authorities." Adebola's heart pounded. "I don't understand," she stammered. Segun chuckled. "Oh, I think you do. Just keep doing what I ask and you'll be fine. Good night." Terrified, Adebola told Femi everything. He was furious. "This man is trying to frame you. We need to report this." But Adebola shook her head. "He has proof, bank slips with my name. They'll think I'm guilty." Femi wasn't convinced. Determined to protect his wife, he started digging. He called a friend who worked in the bank and asked him to trace the account. The friend returned with shocking news. The account had been used to transfer millions of naira overseas. It was flagged for suspicious activity weeks ago. "Someone's laundering money in your name," Femi told Adebola. "This is bigger than we thought." The next morning, police officers showed up at Adebola's school. They arrested her in front of her students, accusing her of being part of an international fraud syndicate. Her colleagues were stunned. Adebola cried, insisting she was innocent, but the evidence was stacked against her. At the station, she was shown the bank documents and surveillance photos of her dropping off envelopes at the courier office. Segun was nowhere to be found, and none of the contact numbers he gave her worked anymore. While Adebola languished in cell, Femi didn't give up. He continued digging, connecting the dots between Segun and a notorious criminal network known for exploiting ordinary people to cover their tracks. The deeper he went, the more dangerous it became. He started receiving threats, anonymous texts warning him to stay out of it. But Femi pressed on, determined to clear his wife's name. Then he uncovered the most shocking detail of all. Segun wasn't just a scammer. He was a former employee of the very bank where Adebola's fake account was registered. He had inside help. Femi set a trap. He pretended to be a potential victim using a fake name and profile to reach out to Segun's network, posing as a businessman looking to invest. He managed to arrange a meeting with one of Segun's associates. At the meeting, Femi secretly recorded their conversation, where the associate bragged about using innocent people like Adebola as scapegoats. "They do all the dirty work without even knowing it," he laughed. Armed with this evidence, Femi went to the authorities, but just as he thought he was making progress, he received a chilling message. A photo of Adebola in her cell with the words, "Back off or she pays the price." Femi was concerned. Should he back off to protect Adebola or push forward and risk everything? Before he could decide, something unexpected happened. One of Segun's former victims, a taxi driver named Musa, came forward with information. Musa had been forced into a similar scheme but had managed to escape. He provided key details that linked Segun to a larger operation involving corrupt officials. With Musa's help, the authorities launched a sting operation. Segun and his associates were finally arrested, and Adebola was cleared of all charges, but the ordeal left scars. Months later, Adebola returned to her quiet life, but she was forever changed. She no longer trusted easily and often looked over her shoulder. Femi too had grown more cautious, warning his friends and neighbors to always question things that seemed too good to be true. As for Segun, he disappeared into the system. His network dismantled but not entirely destroyed. Some say he escaped justice and is still out there, waiting to prey on another unsuspecting victim. And whenever Adebola tells her story, she ends with this haunting advice. Sometimes, evil wears the face of kindness. Trust no one. The end. Hi friends, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please share your thoughts in the comments. I'd really love to read and respond to them. And don't forget to like this video and hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. See you in the next one. Bye friends.